Welcome everyone to, I believe it's our fourth or fifth session for financial planning. We have Moss here that has been participating in all those discussions, in all those sessions, in the working group too. He's part of Avantgarde, and well, you already know him. He has been pitching different solutions, possible solutions for the DAO to start conducting some treasury management. So the idea today is him to present like a more concrete proposal for the DAO, and well, obviously open to debate and open to discussions, everything related to treasury management and the way we allocate funds. So with that intro, I'll pass it to Moss.
All right. Thanks, Feds, and thank you all for participating here today. I'm not going to be the only speaker here. That's very important. There's going to be also Joe, also AKA Pepperoni Joe, from Regen, and Mr. Ansley To, our head of asset management at Avantgarde. So let's get started. First, a few words about us two as organizations, and I'll leave the floor also to Joe to introduce some of their clients. These are some of the names of people that we work with, particularly on our side, on the Avantgarde side, on Avantgarde/Enzyme. We've been working with Nexus Mutual for already a couple of years, and a few other DAOs, Human DAO, Unslashed, some other important DAOs, and recently more in the LST space with Swell and Diva. We've been running quite successful TVL programs for them. And on the Regen side, I'll leave it to Joe to introduce some of the work they have done so far.
Hey everyone, just checking, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, all good.
Cool. Great. So you guys have heard a little bit about Avantgarde already. Regen's partnering with Avantgarde, hopefully to work with Decentraland. We're a Web3 focused professional services and accounting firm. We've worked with our big clients, Arbitrum, Aave, Gitcoin, and we've been doing DAO stuff for full time for 3 or 4 years. We're really here to support with some of the financial reporting aspects of this and budget and planning, which we'll get onto. But really, like TLDR for Regen is we exclusively work with DAOs and early stage projects, and we get the space and get Web3 finances really well.
Alrighty. Okay, let's first talk about a few challenges that we've identified. Looking at the forum, but also discussing with you guys. Lord, very helpful. Mariana, giving a lot of input here. Some of the challenges are like the lack of a robust financial reporting, planning, and budgeting that's been lingering for a while. Lack of treasury diversification, like mostly concentrated in mana tokens and income generation from the treasury itself. Obviously, there's also significant DAO dependence on the token itself, so sell pressure for the token mana, and also low liquidity across different venues. That is also paired with challenges around efficacy of the grant program and spending. We saw that there was a grant freeze, which recently published on the forum. And also, monthly expenses, like P&L is quite, frequently in red, expenses consistently in excess of generated income. And all in all, there's also a bit of a lack of clear vision toward the financial sustainability. So obviously, these are common challenges across several DAOs, and so definitely some patterns that we can recognize. This is why we're here trying to help you guys and find a solution.
On that, these are challenges that we see across so many different DAOs and decentralized organizations, and it's not about pointing out these are all of the things you're doing wrong, but just recognizing there's a lot of stuff that's going really well for Decentraland, and these are some areas that with our experience helping DAOs manage these more nitty-gritty side of things, we can create a lot of good, both in the finance domain, but also more broadly have that impact felt across the DAO.
Absolutely. Actually, this is like the high level idea that we have, the creation of a financial committee, which is composed of members of Avantgarde Asset and Region, with three main verticals: financial reporting, budgeting and planning, and treasury management. Because of course, these are the three most important areas that we think Decentraland DAO can focus on. And we're going to go and dive deeper into each section, and I'm going to just pass it on now to Joe. But before I do that, like we also want to say that this committee is not just about numbers; it's also about understanding, like your situation, the heartbeat, financially speaking, of the DAO, and so make it really trying to make an impact and to make it more sustainable, successful organization. Of course, the bull market will probably help, but this is also trying to plan for the future and make it a really sustainable success over time. All right, so off we go. Financial reporting. I'll leave it to Joe to dive into it.
Yeah, thanks. So really, like for us, accounting and financial reporting is this core backbone that every organization needs to have. And it is that backbone because in our view, it really enables effective decision making. I remember an old friend, he used to say basically like everything just boils down to decision making. And if you make enough of the right decisions, it doesn't matter where you start and where you are, you're going to end up in a really good place. And we're doing this accounting and financial reporting process is what's going to allow ultimately Decentraland delegates, community makers to make more informed decisions, make better decisions. And really the financial reporting work is going to give the DAO the data and insights it needs to succeed. It also will, as sort of that first bit, will enable us then to do, really robust job on those other aspects around budget and planning, treasury management, because without that sort of fundamental understanding about where the DAO is at now, the more forward-looking stuff is much more challenging to do effectively. And I do recognize there's been some really good work around like the grants financial dashboards, etc. Like that's a really strong start. What we want to do is just take that, integrate with that, and go that extra step to go broader, really draw out the things we feel the DAO needs to look at to really prosper and succeed. And then, do you want to go to the next slide?
Yep.
Yeah, and so that financial reporting work links into budget and planning. And we really see budget and planning as us playing this sort of like co-design supporting role, facilitating the DAO, working with you guys to create a roadmap for how Decentraland can be, financially successful and sustainable for the long term. There's some big questions we're going to ask as part of that. How much money should the DAO really spend? What areas should the money be spent on? And ultimately, what structures generally are going to be best placed to enable the vision, the mission, the spend targets to actually be actualized. So yeah, just like to really pull out, this is a collaborative process with the focus being, okay, how can we get better ROI on spend? How can we improve resource allocation, foster accountability, and just drive increased impact across the organization? And I'm conscious that often there's a fear that these external parties are going to come in. Maybe they'll write like a research report that say do this, they'll chuck you that, and then off they go into the sunset. That's not our intention at all. Like we want to be here for the long term, and it's not just about saying this is what we would do in your situation. We want to actually be proactively working with you to both figure out what the changes that need to be made, what budgets need to be set, what that long-term plan is, but then also working with you in execution to actually make those changes that the DAO feels are needed a reality. All yours, Luca.
That's great. Actually, that you pointed this out, Joe. Because last time we were here, or at least I was here. Yeah, I think you were there too. The message was really loud and clear that this, this is not, or the community was kind of like pointing this out very, very, very loud. It should not just be consultancy; it should be like about implementation and getting really stuff done. So this is exactly what we're here for. Yeah. This next section is for Ansley. I will leave it to him.
Yeah, maybe just to double tap on that point as well, just to share like a little bit more about like my background. So I joined Index Coop, which was a really early DeFi DAO, and that was sort of like birthed into the world with none of these questions answered about comp, how do grants work, how a decision is made, what's the financial plan. And that my role there was to facilitate that DAO to make those decisions. Different org, different market, true, but it's that same sort of progress. It's not just you should be going here, but actually walking with you down that path to make the DAO better.
All right,
Thanks,
great.
Joe. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Yeah, just on the treasury management point. So, thanks first of all everyone for attending. So yeah, the sort of main points we'll cover on the treasury management piece, following getting the right information, as Joe said, in order to inform decision making is really focused on three areas: volatility, revenue, and liquidity. So with speaking about volatility of the treasury, that's a key factor in determining long-term sustainability. And we've done work on the whole DAO treasury landscape and looking at the cross section of treasury compositions. With larger DAOs, and you guys aren't alone in terms of having concentration in your native token. Maybe volatility is a bit of an abstract concept. So if I sort of boil that down, so Mana currently has a volatility of around 80%. And that's compared to 50% for ETH. And what that means is, and it's sort of a broad rule of thumb, but maybe it's helpful, is that 2/3 of a data set falls within one standard deviation, right? So volatility being standard deviation of returns. So if you think about ETH as a volatility of 50%, you can interpret that as meaning that over a 1 year period, 2/3 of the time, you should expect the ETH price to change within plus or minus 50%. And 1/3 of the time, it's beyond those bounds. So for Mana, right, that's 80% plus or minus 80% in any given year, 2/3 of the time. So yeah, in terms of planning and sustainability, you can see why a wider distribution of outcomes can make it very difficult to sort of make concrete and accurate decisions, and implementing plans around that is that's part of the challenge for a lot of DAOs where you've got a lot of concentration. So managing volatility and diversification in order to reduce that volatility is one of the key factors. One of the nice things about treasury diversification, other than managing the volatility, is it also provides a counter-cyclical buffer. So you're not a forced seller of your native token in unfavorable market environments. So it's having more levers to pull and when you're planning your cash flows and then which parts of the treasury you can utilize for what. And obviously on the revenue side, so there's another upside in terms of diversification is it can enable additional revenue streams which aren't reliant on the same economic drivers as the DAO's current sources, namely in DeFi, for example, and through staking where it's appropriate from a risk perspective. And again, all of these decisions will be integrated with all the budgeting and planning and all the insights on the financial reporting side. In terms of on-chain yields, and I'll talk about that more in a second. But yeah, the sort of likelihood, if you think of the current environment with Eigenlayer on the horizon and in terms of staking and everything else, is really that the demand for leverage on chain is likely to increase. And that sort of that means in terms of on-chain yields, the path of least resistance from our view at least is probably upwards. Now all of this doesn't matter if all of our achieving this the diversification goals, etc., is going to have a massive impact on the current treasury composition, which is mainly Mana. So that last point in the slide is really emphasizing that all of this is done incorporating all these decisions are incorporated incorporating, I should say, market depth and liquidity considerations around the Mana token. So obviously, a lot of them relative to other tokens, at least currently, in terms of the venues and liquidity, that is a little bit more dispersed. You haven't got as much of the volume concentrated around Binance as other tokens. But a lot of the a lot of the market depth seems to be, at least in our view, on centralized exchanges. So it's thinking about how we can improve that, whether that's protocol and liquidity, working with market makers, in terms of the on-chain liquidity profile as well. But yeah, that's a very important consideration in the actual implementation. And Luca, if you go to the next slide. So this was it's very hard to make forecasts, especially about the future. But this is our best go of it, which is to give you an idea of in terms of using historical data, at least potential revenues that could be achieved using some of these strategies. And what you have on the, if I walk through the chart on the x-axis, this is not a time series chart. This is looking at example allocations to diversifying strategies, and the actual the optimal allocation will come out of, as I mentioned, all these other inputs from the other steps within the process. But what you have here is based on these example allocations, what the estimated annual revenue is using historical data for stablecoin yields in major DeFi protocols and staking rewards. So the reason there's 3 lines there is because these do move quite a lot over time, and they differ a lot between protocols and by collateral, etc., different risk profiles. But this just gives you an idea. So for example, if I focus on that 7.5 million line, sort of somewhere in the middle, you can see that on the right. These are just some stats, and I appreciate we haven't come to the kind of the proposal cost yet, but essentially you're looking at break even of about 300 days for the cost of this program, just using using historical data. If you achieve median yields. With a 7.5 million allocation for 12.5 million, that's down to half a year, etc., and then the corresponding median revenue figures at the bottom. If you guys want to look over those, so yeah, based on historical data, things could change, but at least that helps sort of give you guys an idea in terms of trade-off and costs and things. And I'll stop on the treasury management side. So back to you guys.
All right. Thank you, Ansley. Yeah, this was actually quite a frequent question actually last time, so I'll try to answer this one. And we'll take any Q&A at the end of the session. In terms of implementation, let's discuss a bit the infrastructure. Obviously, we presented this already a few times, but just to remind, if somebody's joining for the first time, like the idea would be to use Enzyme, which is a non-custodial trustless protocol with 5-year plus history on mainnet, very transparent and auditable reporting. And we also have we'll obviously take care of security proactively, fully audited, and also bug bounties on Immunify. In terms of to understand also how it works, the idea would be that Decentraland would be the vault owner through whichever setup is preferred. It could be a multisig, for example. So this setup would be creating and owning the vault, and would be the one that deposits funds on the Enzyme dedicated vault and redeeming funds. This address will be the only allowed depositor on this vault. So essentially, this vault will be totally private. It would not be accessible to any other depositor. Second step would be the trustless delegation. Enzyme has quite a unique feature which allows to essentially it lets the vault owner decide who can manage these vaults and give them certain roles and permissions, and which can be defined at function or parameter level, so they can can be really granular. Essentially, this delegation can be assigned to Avantgarde, which then would be able to manage assets inside the vault, but following the rules that have been defined by the DAO. So essentially, what you would get as an outcome is a non-custodial professional treasury management governed by rules that are defined by the organization. And last but not least, you will also get the transparency of this 24/7 NAV reporting, and also historical track record of all transactions that have been executed for the vault, thanks to Chainlink price oracles, and also now working with Redstone and subgraphs, 7 subgraphs that are actually connected to every vault. You could also have this type of white labeling. This is also something we've done like recently for Diva and Swell. So they have their own dedicated page, which obviously helps create more engagement around the DAO treasury, and also can be embedded or linked to your own URL. So this will be something that can be accessible there. People don't have necessarily to go on Enzyme to see the status of the treasury. The principles, I mean, this is also like gathering the feedback that we got in the last sessions. We actually would ask for a 12-month assignment. Again, like taking on some of the feedback that we got, the DAO would be able to terminate the agreement prior to the 12 months assignment. Also to give some certainty to the DAO that if they're not happy with the assignment, you can terminate it earlier. We would just ask for like a 30-day notice in that case. Any extension to this assignment would be subject to a new DAO vote. So again, last time people asking like what happens in the second year? Is there like an automated renewal? What are the costs? So I think this discussion will have to go into a new proposal that can be then posted on the forum, go through the governance process, and be voted to in order to extend. Another point that was raised last time, I thought was like people feeling strongly about this, that all the deliverables that are produced within the assignment are then owned by the DAO and are not owned by Avantgarde or Regen in a way that so that the DAO can actually potentially use those deliverables with other providers in the future if you guys wanted to. So that's something definitely we're willing to do.
Just on that,
the budget.
That point,
yeah.
Go ahead. From an accounting perspective, a lot of the current Decentraland DAO, like financial infrastructure, is really just built on spreadsheets. We're going to level that up quite significantly to bring in a lot of the best class tooling that both traditional orgs would use, but also that we found to be really effective for DAOs. And that's not, that would be able to be handed over to any members of the Decentraland community if we didn't continue past the 12 months. So they could continue to do the accounting, continue to do the financial reporting. A big part of our focus is actually to embed and get that financial infrastructure sorted so that can be used for years and years to come.
Absolutely, yeah. You would bring your big four expertise to the table here, actually like available to the DAO. All right, cool. So the budget, this is also been presented last time with a few additional points, I guess. The total budget for the 12 months is around 235K, payable in 4 tranches, quarterly, like starting from month 3, whenever the assignment would start. And then this is something we are open to discuss. I mean, this is the proposal, the initial proposal of a 50-50 DAI and mana. I think Joe was chatting on the forum asking like feedback. So I guess we're still open about this point. Essentially, but the initial proposal is to have a 50% with mana payable at the end of the quarter using a 5-day TWAP. So again, at quarter end. So the goal is to keep it competitive and avoid having to fix a mana price today, which might increase in the future. We don't know, but okay. So that in order to avoid that uncertainty, that can be taken as the end of quarter around that time. And also a notable point is that this is a 40% decrease in terms of overall budget for compared to the previous proposal that was presented, also in cooperation with Carpakey. So this is a significant reduction. And I also would like to bring up again the point that was raised earlier by Ansley when he was talking about the return on investment of this budget, which would be around like the payback period if the treasury management is implemented and the yields are like kind of along the same lines in terms of statistical projections, then you would see like this investment return in less than a year. So that's I think an important message to pass. You guys want to add something on this?
On that treasury point, the treasury management side of things can be really great for DAOs. Have a lot of stables because you can start getting this passive return on your money, which can ultimately go to fund DAO operations, which means tokens don't need to be sold to be sold. And we're doing something really similar at Arbitrum that's just worked great and the DAO's really bought into. So just wanting to highlight that. And just also on the fee side of things, I appreciate, 235 can sound like a lot, but this is two really experienced service providers that are putting quite a lot of oomph into this. Certainly from my side, it's not just going to be me. We're going to get 3, 4 other members of my team working throughout this engagement to really give a good value for money to Decentraland.
Alrighty. Yeah. So next step, I would say tomorrow, like the proposal, the written proposal is already there. In fact, the presentation has been created on the basis that on the back of this proposal. So the idea could be actually to post it tomorrow. Let's say tomorrow morning, and I guess we would like to have a bit of feedback from the community. We got already some feedback from Mariana and Lord Like, but I think this could also be a good time to discuss a bit this freeze for like all non-platform grant spending, and to also then to understand like which is the route that is most appropriate for this proposal. And yeah, actually, also Joe, I think you wanted to mention something else, which is very important to drop here. Joe?
Sorry, scrambling for my mute button. Let's maybe have a bit of discussion about the impact of the non-platform spending freeze, and then we can talk more our approach
Okay,
based on that.
sure. Cool. So then this is it for the presentation that we have today, and we're happy to take questions from you guys.
Okay, thanks a lot, Moss, Joe, and Ainsley for bringing this presentation. It was like really clear and very complete. Also wanted to thank you for adapting to the DAO needs with the budget thing and everything. There are some comments um like in the chat. I actually commented something about if it wouldn't be better to go through the bidding and tendering procedure for this because right now, well, you already know, I think that the grants program has been freezed, and the only way that we could allocate such amount of money for this will be through the bidding and tendering. Besides that, I personally think that this is a very reasonable proposal, and as Mariana is mentioning, lots of value for 235K. But just wanted to bring this because both HP, me, and Mariana agree that bidding and tendering could be a better way to do this.
Could you actually describe a bit more like what the bid, because sorry for the ignorance,
Yes,
but the bid
obviously.
and tendering process?
Sure.
Yeah.
So bidding and tendering is used basically um, for identifying needs of the DAO, pitching that ideas. If that ideas are accepted by the community, then someone presents a tender proposal with the scope of work for that team that could provide that service, and then different teams or different people present bids for that, offering services based on the scope of work that has been presented in the tender, and then they go through a voting. This was actually used the first time a month ago with the in-world headquarters for the Decentraland DAO, and it worked actually. So in terms of money allocation right now, I believe bidding and tendering could be like the best way of doing this. And well, Gina is actually mentioning that in the future this could become a committee, but for this first iteration, I personally think that this will be better. And well, I'm seeing that other community members believe the same. But it's basically the
Okay, thank you.
procedure. It's basically that like someone presents a pitch proposal, then a tender proposal is presented, and then different parties or community members or companies or whatever present bids offering their services with the scope of work, with the budget and everything. and then that gets approved through a voting. And to be honest, I this is again my opinion. As far as I know, this has been like the best and most complete presentation that we had so far about financial planning and treasury management. So I personally believe also that's not going to be a complication for you to get this approved if the community agrees with it. But yeah, I again want to reinforce the idea that bidding and tendering should be the way of doing this.
Okay, understood. What's the expected timeline in terms of like duration for this process is typically?
And that's a really good question. Gino, could you help me with that? I'll invite you to the stage, but it basically takes like 1 month and a half or something like that.
Yeah, from the initial proposal to the funds allocation, it's 45 days.
Okay, so that's the standard process, like where you have to wait for like proposals to come in, or like, or is it? So that's the sort of like your standard
No, because
procedure.
there's a proposal submission period in which external providers could propose, could be proposed for executing projects. So that's why we have some artificial delay, let's say.
Okay, understood.
So
Yeah,
sorry to
personally,
interrupt.
I'm
First before, sorry, Joe. And the committee process will take, if we take into account like the first pre-proposal poll that Lord like has sent for treasury management and everything. If you present a draft proposal and then yeah, well, for creating a committee will take 21 days, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that. So it's not like lot of time, lot of it's not like a huge amount of time that's different from that with the bidding and tendering. Sorry, Joe. Uh, Back to you.
No, thanks for the clarification. To be honest, from my perspective, I'm all good with taking that process because it's not going to take too long, and if that's the process of the DAO, I think it's important to honour that. I was also going to share. We thought just upon conversations, Mariana, that was likely the process we were going to take, but at the same time, we've been in conversation with Decentraland for ages about this, and we were sort of just like ready to get going. So I feel like pretty comfortable sharing that, we're happy to make a start with some of the financial reporting and accounting work now, even without, any formal proposal in place, just with the hope that obviously that will move us in the right direction. Plus, it gives opportunity for you guys to hopefully see some of our work. Plus, hopefully, it should also demonstrate our sort of commitment to the DAO as well. That we'd be happy to do that. So we can actually get cracking on Monday, is what I'm saying.
Mariano says, great approach.
So yeah, well, that was basically what I wanted to share, and well, again, so a lot of community members, well, at least 3 or 4, share my view regarding this. So I don't know if any other community members have questions for the team regarding the proposal, regarding the revenue, regarding the compensation, regarding the timings. I believe the presentation was very clear, but yeah, it's the moment to ask questions. So if anyone wants to ask a question, you could do it in the chat, or you could request me to join the stage, and I'll enable you to talk with the rest of the team.
So first of all, hey, Gino here from one of the core units of the DAO. First of all, thanks. It's been super clear. There might be some like tiny questions, but we can do it async. Just one question regarding like conflict of interest or statements of positions taken from the teams managing the treasury. Is that something that you would disclose in terms of who's going to be managing the treasury and the positions they hold, I don't know, in different projects or things like that?
I would say that the question more like for us, for Avantgarde, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't foresee like this type of conflict of interest, but okay, if anything, then definitely so. Jared is asking if it's possible for you to make a written report on everything you explained today. Yeah, of course, Jared. In fact, this is like we already have the written proposal. So yeah, yeah, indeed. So thanks, Joe. This is the written proposal that was the basis for this presentation. So that's going to be yeah. I mean, now like I guess we will need some guidance on like when and where to post this. Following this procedure that you just outlined. But the idea was, that the idea is that as soon as like you instruct us to post it, it's going to be posted on your forum. Okay.
Yeah, I mean the pitch proposal shouldn't take too much time to present it. If you like sit down or we sit down together today, we could present it. It's not a big deal. Or Lorelai could present it,
Okay.
and it's not a big deal to be honest. But yeah, for the tender proposal and the bids and everything, yeah, you should sit down and plan it in a better way. Maybe you can. I didn't take a look to the full proposal, but it might only need some minor adjustments, like format adjustments for the bid, but that will be all. Um, any other questions from the community? Remember that we can still continue with these conversations in the financial planning working group. Mose, Joe, and Ainsley are there usually sharing information and answering questions. So, yeah, we can continue this in an async way. If there are no questions, I believe we can start wrapping up this meeting. And yeah, we'll keep you posted about next steps. I don't know, Moss, Joe, or Ainsley, if you want to give some closure to this.
Yeah, thank you guys. I mean, this is like third, fourth session I'm here, so I think like it shows that we, want to be here. Like we try to listen to your feedback. We're trying to improve on the previous iterations, and definitely very excited to go for the next steps. And and then from Monday on, you'll actually have Joe and the Regen team already kind of cracking on. So there you go.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot for.
excited to
Sorry,
start.
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say excited to start, and yeah, if you can help guide us through the process, like we're keen to make this work. Yeah, so thank you for the time.
Thanks to you, folks. Okay. Uh, we'll keep you posted about next steps. We'll probably have some async discussions with the team and the rest of the community. But yeah, I believe we all have reached a consensus on how is the best way to do this. Okay, thanks everyone for joining. This meeting has been recorded and is going to be uploaded probably in a few days. So, yep, that will be pretty much all. Thanks for joining. Bye bye.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Cheers.
So